My wife wanted to donate a kidney to her cousin's husband. I told her not to, but she did it anyway, saying my body, my choice. Now she and her family are begging me to support her, but I'm clear. It's not my decision, not my responsibility. It was a Tuesday night, sometime after dinner. The kids were upstairs, probably fighting over the iPad, and I was rinsing off plates when Clara casually dropped the bomb, like she was commenting on the weather. Oh, by the way, I'm donating my kidney to David. I turned off the faucet mid-scrub. What? She didn't even look up, just kept drying her hands like she hadn't just detonated our marriage. David, you know Amanda's husband? His kidney function's down to 20%. The transplant is happening in a couple weeks. Wait, what do you mean it's happening? When did this even come up? Clara shrugged. It's been in the works for a bit. I didn't want to say anything until it was certain. I felt something twist in my chest. Clara, you've been planning an organ donation behind my back. It's not behind your back, she said, finally meeting my eyes. It's my body. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's what you're going with. My body, my choice. You're not getting a tattoo. You're going through major surgery. You have 2 kids, for God's sake. She crossed her arms, calm as a surgeon before a cut, and I've taken that into account. I talked to the doctors. The risks are minimal. You didn't talk to me, I snapped. You know how I feel about this. We've had this conversation. Hell, we had it when Amanda first mentioned he was sick. I told you this wasn't something I'd be okay with. Well, she said, eyes narrowing, I don't need your blessing. Unbelievable. I rubbed my hands down my face. You're choosing Amanda's family over ours. That's not true, she said, but the tone was icy. I'm doing what I believe is right. David has 3 young kids. Victor, he's dying. So your answer is to risk leaving our kids motherless? She flinched at that. A small one, but I saw it. It's a low-risk procedure. And an even lower conversation with your husband, apparently. Silence stretched between us, thick and stifling. I shook my head. You knew I'd never agree. That's why you hid it. Don't pretend this is about courage or morality. This is about control. She clenched her jaw. You want control? Fine. Here's your chance. I stared at her, stunned, as she kept going. If you can't respect this choice, if you can't handle a wife who makes decisions about her own body, then maybe we shouldn't be married. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't believe she was saying this like it was nothing. Are you threatening me? No, she said. I'm telling you what's real. I'm going through with the surgery. And if that's a deal breaker for you, so be it. I walked out. I didn't slam a door, didn't yell. I just left the room with my blood boiling and my heart cracking open. And as I sat alone on the porch steps, hearing our kids laugh through the upstairs window, I realized something cold and final. She had already made her choice. And now, I had to make mine. Clara had the surgery 10 days later. I didn't drive her to the hospital. I didn't bring flowers. I didn't even ask how it went. Amanda texted me updates, which I didn't answer. The night she came home, I heard the front door creak open and her steps shuffle inside, like she was sneaking in past curfew. I stayed in the den with the TV on mute. She didn't call my name, didn't ask for help, just climbed the stairs, one slow, painful step at a time, and closed the bedroom door behind her. For the next few days, the house was quieter than ever. Our kids tiptoed around her room like they were afraid of waking a bear. I took over dinners, school runs, everything. Clara mostly stayed upstairs, recovering, surrounded by pillows and the steady beep of a blood pressure monitor she kept on the nightstand. She looked weaker than I'd ever seen her, pale and gaunt, with shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. But there was a smugness too, a kind of stubborn pride that made me sick to my stomach. Amanda came by almost every day, beaming with gratitude. She's a hero, she kept saying. A literal hero. I didn't reply. By the end of the week, Clara started trying to talk again. Little comments dropped at breakfast when I was pouring cereal for the kids. I can't lift anything heavier than 5 pounds. Doctor says I need help getting to my follow-ups. I'm not supposed to drive for at least a month. Each time, I looked at her, then looked away. I didn't offer, didn't volunteer, just turned to the kids and asked who wanted toast. She didn't push, not at first. But by the second week, she started getting annoyed. You're really just going to ignore me while I recover from giving away an organ? I kept my tone even. You made that decision without me. You recover without me too. That's childish. No, I said, finally looking at her. It's boundaries. Her face hardened. So you're punishing me. I'm stepping back, I said. You chose this. You told me my opinion didn't matter. So don't act surprised when I act like it doesn't. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Just that frustrated little inhale she does when she knows I'm right but won't admit it. Amanda started texting again, this time pleading. She needs support. You're still her husband. This is about family. I didn't reply to that one either. By week 3, Clara was snapping at everyone. The kids, me, even Amanda. She was tired, sore, and not healing as fast as she thought she would. One night, she came into the kitchen while I was loading the dishwasher and leaned on the counter with a shaky hand. "I thought you'd at least be proud," she said, voice brittle. I closed the dishwasher slowly. "Proud of what? That you went under the knife behind my back? That you nearly orphaned our kids for someone else's family?" She flinched. "Don't say that." "Then stop acting like a martyr," I said. "You weren't brave. You were reckless." She stared at me for a long time, then said, "I'm still your wife." I looked at her, at the pale shell she'd become, the defiance still flickering in her eyes like a dying flame. And I said the one thing I knew would land. "No, you stopped being my wife the day you decided you didn't need one." And with that, I turned off the light and walked out, leaving her in the dim kitchen, swaying slightly on her feet, surrounded by silence she created herself. By the 4th week, Clara stopped pretending she had everything under control. At first it was little things, texts asking me to pick up her prescription, or if I could swing by the dry cleaners. I ignored them. Then she started calling, usually when the kids were with me. Once, she left a voicemail that was just quiet breathing, like she couldn't decide whether to speak or hang up. I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. Amanda and her family were supposed to help. That was the story Clara fed me when she decided to go under the knife. "We'll have support," she'd said. Amanda promised. But support dries up fast when it starts costing time and energy. Amanda showed up a few times that first week with soup and flowers. After that, it was all texts and, "So sorry. Things are crazy with the kids." Her husband, the man who now carried part of Clara's body inside him, hadn't stopped by once. Not even a thank you card, Clara noticed. You could see it in the way she moved around the house, slow, stiff, but suddenly quieter, like she was trying not to draw attention to the fact that she was unraveling. I caught her one afternoon trying to carry a basket of laundry downstairs. She winced with every step, but refused to ask for help. I watched from the kitchen and said nothing. That night, she knocked on the den door while I was sorting mail. "Victor, I need help with the shower chair. It's stuck." I didn't even look up. "Ask Amanda. She's not coming by anymore." Shocking. Her tone sharpened. "You don't have to be cruel." "I'm not being cruel," I said flatly. "I'm being consistent." She stepped into the room, arms crossed over her chest like armor. "You're punishing me because I didn't grovel for your permission." "No," I said. "I'm staying out of a situation I had no say in creating." "Like you asked." "That's not what I meant. It's what you said." She was breathing harder now, eyes glassy. "So you're just going to let me suffer? After everything?" "Everything." I stood up slowly. "You mean the betrayal? The lying? The complete disregard for our marriage?" Her mouth opened, but I cut her off. "You didn't just go behind my back, Clara. You left me. You left us. And now you want me to fix what you broke." Tears welled up. "I'm not asking you to fix anything. I'm asking you not to abandon me." I laughed bitterly. "Welcome to the club." She didn't answer, just stood there, breathing shallow, like she was scared I might say something even worse. And I might have. But the sound of one of the kids walking down the hall stopped me. We both turned toward the door. Clara wiped her eyes and left without another word. That night, I heard her crying in the bathroom. The kind of crying that sounds like it's been held in too long. I stood outside the door for a moment, then walked away. Because helping her now would have meant pretending I wasn't the one she walked away from first. And I wasn't ready to pretend. Not yet. Not anymore. Clara's health scare happened on a rainy Thursday. The kind of day where everything feels heavier than it should. I was sitting on the couch, going through school forms, when I heard a thud upstairs. Not loud enough to sound like an emergency, but just wrong enough that I had to check. I found her on the bathroom floor, curled over herself, clutching her side with her eyes squeezed shut. "It hurts," she gasped. "Something's wrong." I didn't say anything, just stood there in the doorway, arms frozen at my sides. "You need to take me in," she said, teeth gritted. "Please." I looked at her, pale, shaking, skin slick with sweat, and all I could think about was her standing in this same house a month ago, telling me I didn't matter. "I'll call an ambulance," I said. "Victor." Her voice cracked. "I don't want to go alone." I stared at her for a second longer, then pulled out my phone. She was admitted overnight for observation. Minor infection, they said. Nothing life-threatening. Still, she looked small and worn under the hospital sheets, her hair pulled back into a loose braid, the 4 lines snaking out of her arm like a punishment. Amanda stopped by, sat for 20 minutes, took a selfie with Clara holding a juice cup, then left. I didn't visit. I dropped off the kids at school, picked them up, made dinner, and waited for the next phone call. I was done playing the supportive husband in a show I never agreed to be in. When Clara came home 2 days later, she didn't say much. She moved slower, ate less, Spent more time staring out the window than talking. But then one night, she cracked. I was scared, she said quietly over her soup. At the hospital, I kept thinking, if something happened, you wouldn't even care. I didn't look up from the table. I would have called a lawyer. That's not funny. I wasn't joking. She exhaled shakily. I miss you. I miss us. I finally looked at her. You don't miss us. You miss being taken care of. She flinched. That's not fair. No. I set my spoon down. Because from where I'm sitting, I did everything I was supposed to. And when you had to make a hard choice, you cut me out. Her voice broke. I didn't think it would hurt you like this. Then you weren't thinking at all. She looked down. David hasn't even called. Not once. I haven't heard a word from him. I nodded slowly. And now you know how it feels. She wiped her eyes. I made a mistake. Yeah, I said, getting up. And now you get to live with it. I took my bowl to the sink, rinsed it, and left the room. Behind me, she sat in silence, her apologies still echoing in the kitchen. Too little and far too late. Clara moved out the following Monday. Said it was temporary, said she just needed space. But we both knew it wasn't really about space. It was about damage. And it was already done. She packed 2 duffel bags and called her mother to pick her up. Didn't ask for help carrying anything. Didn't ask me to talk. Just moved around the bedroom like a tenant vacating a rental. The kids watched from the hallway in silence, their backpacks still on, homework forgotten in their hands. Clara crouched down in front of them at the door. I'm just going to Grandma's for a little while, okay? Things are tense here. Mommy needs a break. Neither of them said anything, just nodded, small and confused. As soon as the car pulled away, I sat down at the kitchen table and exhaled like I hadn't breathed in weeks. And then I opened my laptop and started organizing everything: schedules, custody rotation, school contacts. I wasn't waiting around for whatever version of Clara might return. I was preparing. The first few days were peaceful. I focused on the kids, work, laundry, sleep. But it didn't last. On Thursday, Clara called. I let it ring. Then the text started. Can we talk? The kids should hear from me. It doesn't have to be like this. By Saturday, the guilt campaign began. You're turning them against me. I made one mistake and now I'm being punished forever? You used to be better than this. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I started documenting everything: texts, missed calls, timestamps. I wasn't trying to build a case. Not yet. But I wasn't going to be caught unprepared. A week later, her mother called. Victor, she said in that firm, clipped voice of hers. I know you're upset, but Clara's struggling. This isn't good for anyone. With all due respect, I said, she wasn't too concerned about how I was struggling when she decided to go under the knife without a word. She did what she thought was right, and I'm doing the same. She sighed. Be the bigger person. I hung up. The pressure kept building. Her sister reached out. Her cousin, even a mutual friend from college I hadn't spoken to in years, sent me a message on Facebook. I heard about what's going on. Clara's really hurting. She said you won't even let her talk to the kids. That true? I replied with one line. Ask her why she left. Meanwhile, Clara kept posting smiling pictures with her mother, and the kids during weekend visits, filter-heavy photos with captions like grateful for peace and finding myself again. But underneath the performative joy, she started slipping little barbs in their ears. During a Tuesday drop-off, our daughter, Olivia, said quietly, Mom said you're mad because you don't like helping people. I stopped in my tracks. Is that what she told you? She said, you're punishing her. I crouched down, met her eyes. No, sweetheart. I'm holding her responsible. Olivia didn't quite understand, but she nodded anyway. That night, I sat at the edge of my bed and realized something. Clara wasn't done. She'd left the house, but not the war. It was just after dinner when Clara showed up again. No warning, no heads-up text, just a knock on the door, and there she was, standing on the porch with 2 bags at her feet and a tight, hopeful smile on her face like we were picking up right where we left off. I want to come back, she said. For the kids. I didn't move, just leaned on the doorframe, arms crossed. For the kids, I repeated. She nodded quickly. They need both parents under one roof. No, I said. What they need is stability. And this, I motioned toward her bags, isn't it? She blinked, caught off guard. Victor, I'm trying. Isn't that what you wanted? I stepped outside and closed the door behind me so the kids wouldn't hear. What I wanted was a wife who didn't throw away our marriage for a PR stunt. Her eyes narrowed. Don't do that. I'm not, I said calmly. You are. This isn't about the kids. It's about you being uncomfortable at your mom's and realizing you don't have backup anymore. Her nostrils flared. So you'd rather keep punishing me? Keep pretending like you haven't made mistakes too. I'm not pretending anything, I said. I'm being clear. You made your choice, and now you don't get to hit rewind because it got hard. She crossed her arms, eyes flashing. You think I'm just going to let you take everything? The house, the kids. You walked out, Clara. I left because it was toxic. You left because you didn't want to face what you did. She stepped closer. You think the kids haven't noticed? You think they don't feel the tension? They're going to start asking questions, Victor. And if I have to tell them why their dad turned into an ice block, I will. My stomach tightened. Don't do that. Or what? Her voice rose. You'll tell them I saved someone's life? That I did something selfless, and you couldn't handle it? I shook my head. No, I'll tell them the truth. That you chose someone else's family over your own. That you made a life-altering decision and treated their father like a speed bump. I'll tell them what really happened, she said. How you punished me every day for being brave. How you pushed me away until I had no choice. I laughed, cold and quiet. That's the thing, Clara. You always had a choice. And you picked the one that made you feel noble, not the one that kept us whole. She looked away, lips pressed tight, jaw twitching. Then she exploded. You know what? I will tell them everything. I'll tell them how you refused to visit me in the hospital. How you ignored my calls. How you left me alone to suffer while you played the victim. They're not your emotional shields. I snapped. You don't get to use them to sneak back into my life. Her voice dropped, low and dangerous. You think you're so righteous, but you're just scared they'll love me more. I stared at her. I'm scared they'll learn how to lie by watching you. That did it. She picked up her bags and hurled one against the railing. Then she turned, marched to her car, and slammed the door so hard the windows shook. The tires squealed as she pulled away. Inside, the kids stood in the hallway, wide-eyed and silent. I knelt down beside them. Is Mommy coming back? Olivia asked. I swallowed hard. She's still your mom. You'll still see her, but she's not living here. Why not? I looked at them, steady and calm. Because this house is where the truth lives now. They didn't fully understand, but they hugged me tight anyway. And I held on. Hard. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Beige walls, stiff wooden benches, fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired. Clara sat on the far side with her lawyer, a tall woman in a red blazer who kept smiling like she was about to sell a house, not argue a divorce. I brought everything. Records, screenshots, call logs, custody calendars. Months of proof that I had been the one holding this family together while Clara unraveled it. She looked different. Her hair was straightened, makeup perfect, wearing a soft blue blouse like she was on her way to a PDA meeting. She kept glancing at the judge like they were old friends. I wondered how much of that was coached. When the proceedings started, her lawyer stood first. Your Honor, she began. This case is about compassion. My client, Clara Ross, is a woman who acted from the purest intentions. She made a courageous medical choice to save a life, her cousin's husband. What followed was a cruel campaign of emotional withdrawal by her husband, who used her recovery period to build a false narrative of abandonment. I kept my face blank. She is not asking for much. She wants joint custody of her children, reasonable support, and a return to civility. What she is not asking for is punishment. But that's exactly what Mr. Ross has tried to inflict. Then it was my lawyer's turn. David, a bulldog in a gray suit with a quiet, clipped tone that didn't waste time. Your Honor, the issue is not the transplant. It's the deception, the months of concealment, the total exclusion of her spouse from a decision that affected the entire household, including 2 children. We will show that Clara not only made the decision alone but attempted to re-enter the home on her terms, using the children as leverage. He held up a folder and handed copies to the court clerk. Exhibits A through F include text message screenshots, visitation logs, and Clara's attempts to manipulate the children's perception of their father. Clara looked down. She didn't look up again for the rest of the hearing. Then came the questions. The judge was polite, even-toned, but sharp. Clara stumbled a few times. When asked why she didn't inform me until weeks into the transplant planning, she stammered about privacy and medical autonomy. When asked if she'd told our kids why she moved out, she admitted to saying the house didn't feel safe anymore. David pounced on that. Safe from what? He asked. I meant emotionally. The judge frowned. You told them their father's house wasn't safe? Clara's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. In the end, the decision came down without ceremony. Full physical custody to me, shared legal custody pending a 6-month review. Visitation granted, but only with conditions, no overnight stays without court approval. The judge cited stability, consistent caregiving, and Clara's pattern of emotional volatility. Outside, Clara approached me as I packed up my briefcase. I want to fix this, she said quietly. I want us to be a family again. I didn't yell, didn't lash out. I just looked at her, tired and steady. You can be in their lives, if you show them stability and honesty. But me, I shook my head. We're finished. She nodded. tears brimming. For the first time in months, she looked like someone who realized what she'd lost. And this time, I didn't look back. Life settled into a rhythm without Clara. The house was quieter, but it wasn't a bad kind of quiet. It was the kind that lets you hear your kids laughing from 2 rooms away, or the hum of the dishwasher late at night. The kind of quiet that feels earned. Olivia started drawing again big colorful pictures of our family, with Daddy in bold letters and stick figure arms reaching out. Ryan got more talkative, asking questions about the stars, about football, about why people sometimes stop living together. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I told them the truth in pieces they could understand. That sometimes people change in ways that don't fit together anymore. That love doesn't always stay, but that I would. Every day, I showed up, breakfasts, school drop-offs, late-night fevers, forgotten science projects. I was there, fully, and they saw it. Clara, to her credit, didn't disappear. She showed up for visitation twice a week, never late, always trying. But she came in like a ghost, polite, subdued, as if she didn't want to leave footprints. There were no more grand declarations, no tears, no fights, just quiet effort. The first few visits were tense. She brought them snacks they didn't eat, tried too hard to make up for lost ground. But over time, the kids adjusted. They didn't look to her for decisions anymore, but they hugged her when she left. That was something. One afternoon, about 4 months after the court decision, she lingered on the porch during pickup. The kids were inside, eating grilled cheese and watching cartoons. I wanted to say something, she said, arms crossed against the cold. I stepped outside, letting the door click shut behind me. Okay. She looked up at me. No makeup, no performance. Just her. Worn down but honest. I'm sorry, Victor, for all of it. For how I handled the surgery, for lying, for the way I treated you after. I thought I was doing something noble, but I bulldozed everything that mattered along the way. I didn't say anything. She nodded, as if expecting the silence. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. I let that sit for a second. Then I nodded. Thank you. That was all. She walked back to her car, slower than usual, and I stood there watching her taillights disappear down the street. There was no bitterness left in me, just a strange sense of finality. Like the book was closed, shelved, dusted off one last time. Inside, Olivia looked up from the couch. Was that Mom? Yeah. She said she might take us to the zoo next time. That sounds fun. She smiled and turned back to the TV. I sat down next to them, one kid on each side, arms draped over their little shoulders. The warmth was real, solid. It didn't need fixing or apologizing. It just was. Later that night, after they were in bed, I stepped out onto the porch and looked out at the quiet street. I breathed deep and realized something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. No more ultimatums. No more secrets. No more rescuing someone who didn't want to be saved. The storm was over, and I was still standing. So I turned off the porch light, locked the door behind me, and walked into the rest of my life.